Mega Man X3 is the sequel that tried to give players more of everything. More upgrades, more bosses, more secrets, and even the ability to play as Zero for the first time. But sometimes the idea of more in life doesn't always mean better. More taxes, more meetings, more Mavericks trying to murder you. It's not always an upgrade. So the questions are, how does X3 compare to its predecessors, and how good is it on its own? Released late in the Super Nintendo's life cycle and relatively early in the Sega Saturn and Sony PlayStation life cycles, Mega Man X3 appeared on all of these platforms with minor differences between each. For the purposes of this review, I'm going to run through the Super Nintendo version. I remember playing this game back in 1996 thinking Zero was the coolest, and I was ecstatic to play with him. Quite frankly, I still think Zero is the coolest despite not using him at all during this review except for one key moment. Now, I think everyone who played this game when it was released knew that Sigma was going to be involved somehow, but like X2, the game at least attempts to have a plot with the introduction of Dr. Doppler, who is credited with neutralizing all Mavericks between the timeline of the two games. Some place called Doppeltown was even created in his namesake. But of course, paradise doesn't last forever, and after a few months, all the Mavericks became bad guys again, and it turns out our pal Dr. Doppler wasn't such a great guy after all. Who could have possibly seen that coming? The direction this is going should be pretty obvious, right? Mega Man X3 looks very much like its predecessors, albeit with even more detail in the backgrounds and sprites. The developers even brought back the CX4 chip that was used in Mega Man X2 for wireframe 3D effects, and was used in pretty much the same way at the same time at the same point in the game as X2. Do keep in mind, I played this game via emulator, and bumped up the resolution a bit simply because I prefer to play it that way, but the game looks great either way. X, Zero, and most of the Maverick Robot Masters all look great for the time. The Mavericks all vary quite a lot in size and appearance, with Neon Tiger and Toxic Seahorse standing out to me as two cool designs. Now, if you've played this game before, I would be curious to hear your thoughts in the comment section below about stage design and appearance. For me, stage design in X3 is a mixed bag. For example, Tunnel Rhino's stage is way too damn long, especially if you get a random boss battle in the middle of it. By the time you reach Tunnel Rhino, you're starting to question your own life choices. On the other hand, Neon Tiger's stage is one of the best in the game. Short, stylish, and with no annoying backtracking unless you didn't finish Tunnel Rhino first. Other stages like Volt Catfish and Blast Hornet are just okay for me, but are also too long if you get stuck with a random boss in the middle. You can literally end up fighting a regular mid-boss, then a random boss, and then the Maverick all within the same stage. One new curveball in the game is that some stages now have obstacles that require a specific ride armor upgrade that X can find, and there are 4 of them in total. While this does go with X3's theme of more of everything, it also causes a ton of backtracking, which is one of my biggest gripes with the game. In order to get every upgrade and unlock the final secret of the game, you'll have to backtrack through several completed stages, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times, because apparently Dr. Doppler also invented cardio. I'm sure there's an optimized order better than mine to make it less cumbersome, but I ended up going through the Volt Catfish and Tunnel Rhino stages 3 times each to get everything. There are a couple of tricks to work around some of this, like using Neon Tiger's weapon to gain a 3rd jump, but I never learned how to do it, and I doubt the average player would ever figure it out either. Another new addition to the series in X3 is the addition of 4 extra power chips that you can give X in certain stages of the game. Like the regular upgrades, each chip correlates to a specific part, like the armor chip, further reducing damage. Spoiler alert, it's not in the best interest to get any of these, as there is a secret superior option later in the game, providing you've met the stringent requirements to obtain it. In fact, X3 has more in-game variables than X1 or X2, and probably more than X4 as well. For starters, the random bosses I mentioned before are similar to the X-Hunters of X2. After completing 2 Mavericks, Dr. Doppler will send Bit and Byte into 2 random stages, but the difference this time is that the game doesn't show you where they are on the stage select screen. Each stage also has a secret portal that leads to another mini-stage containing a rebuilt version of Vile with his ride armor. This is a one-time fight, and after you defeat Vile and escape, the portals no longer function. More spoilers alert, in order to get the best upgrade in the game, Vile must be defeated with the Ray Splasher or Spinning Blade. If he's defeated in any other way, he won't be permanently gone and will come back as a boss later in the game. He and his stage must also be completed before all 8 Mavericks, or you will lose the chance to do so. For me, I fought him right before Blast Hornet, who is my final Maverick when I play through the game. A similar variable is regarding Bit and Byte. If you manage to defeat them both using their weakness during the Maverick stages, they'll be permanently gone and replaced by a much easier boss later in the game. If they are defeated any other way or you don't get both of them, they will come back as a fused boss later that is more difficult. Finally, there is another variable in Dr. Doppler's second stage that allows X to obtain the Z-Saber at the sacrifice of losing Zero as a playable character. Zero hits hard and looks awesome, but unfortunately in this game you lose him permanently if an enemy so much as sneezes on him, so it's best to just let X have the saber. It'll help quite a lot with Sigma, who has one of his most difficult forms in the entire series. This also happens to be a great segue into the overall difficulty of the game. X3 without a doubt is more difficult than X2 and definitely X1. Some of the stages are very long and getting caught with Bit or Byte can make them quite a pain in the ass, especially early on. However, I will say that I found the X-Hunters in X2 to be more difficult than Bit or Byte. Byte is literally just doing the same pattern over and over again, though it does require quick input and dexterity. The Bit fight is all about timing his magnetic attack, but even that's the same pattern over and over. I've seen many people state that Vile is difficult, but I honestly didn't have too much trouble with either part using only the Buster. I just switched to the Ray Splasher for the final hit. I will say though, the Buster upgrade in this game is trash, and the combined shot mechanic is useless. X2 had a far superior Buster upgrade. The Mavericks themselves vary greatly in difficulty. I found Tunnel Rhino and Blizzard Buffalo to be total chumps. Blast Hornet and Neon Tiger I also found pretty manageable using only the Buster. However, Volt Catfish and Crush Crawfish are pretty difficult without their weakness. Volt Catfish does have a cheese strat, but I don't know exactly how to do it, so I don't bother with it. Toxic Seahorse and Gravity Beetle are both complete jokes with their weakness as well, but at least both of them have great music, which is one of the things that Mega Man X3 absolutely knocked out of the ballpark. More so than X1 or X2, the individual stage tracks in Mega Man X3 do an amazing job of creating a mood that matches the stage. Blizzard Buffalo's stage is completely frozen over, and that track almost has a lo-fi effect to it that matches the mood perfectly. The Toxic Seahorse stage has kind of a gritty, grimy track to it that goes very well with the green pools of sludge that X has to work his way through. The most memorable track to me from childhood is the Volt Catfish stage, and I wasn't disappointed here in 2026 either. Even though the stage is cumbersome, at least you get to listen to this while you're going through it 2 or 3 times. I really can't say anything bad about the music in X3 at all. Some of the stages even remind me of previous X games. Gravity Beetle stage reminds me a lot of Storm Eagle, and Tunnel Rhino stage reminds me a lot of Armored Armadillo. The Doppler stages are just okay, but the final battle against Sigma does set the ominous tone that a battle of that difficulty deserves. Now, in previous reviews, I gave Mega Man X a 9.5 and Mega Man X2 a 9.0. How does X3 stack up? Well, for starters, I found the higher difficulty a boon, not a burden. There are some folks that say X3 is too hard. I think it's just right for me outside of Sigma's ridiculous hitbox, but I'm a pretty good player and I can certainly acknowledge some folks find it too difficult. At least it's not X6, which is less of a game and more of a stress test. I did find the backtracking very annoying, and I think things could have been designed better so that wasn't necessary. Some of the stages are too long, but at least you get some awesome music while you slog your way through it more than once. Playing as Zero is awesome, but it's even more awesome if X gets the Z-Saber. Even though the Buster upgrade is trash, the final secret upgrade is amazing and one of my favorites in the entire series. I do think this game is slightly underrated. Original views of the game were in the 6 to 8 range. If I treat the game's difficulty as a hindrance, which is most people's experience with it probably, I can confidently give X3 an 8.5 out of 10. I would personally give it a 9, but that's not the type of review I'm trying to do here. X3 is a fantastic game that absolutely deserves a playthrough. I'd like to thank you for watching the video and spending your time here with me. If you aren't subscribed, please consider doing so and drop me a thumbs up and a comment below. It's quick, easy, and free, and it helps me out a lot as a creator. Please look forward to another review in the near future, and I will see you in the next one.